Okay, can you all see my Qualtrics screen?
Yes.
Awesome. Okay, before we start, are there any questions about anything we've done so far? Okay, today we will talk about uh, distributing your survey. Of course, you haven't done all that work just to, leave it sit around. You want to send it out to your uh, potential respondents. So I have just a basic survey here that I copied over from the Qualtrics library. There's nothing special about it um, because for today, the actual questions aren't the focus. Um, so you've developed your survey, you made all your questions, you've done the survey flow, all the skip and display type things. Um, so now you want to go back and check everything and make sure that it all works the way you expect it to, that there aren't any glitches in it. Um, so the first step is to come up to tools and then go to review. And you can do either check survey accessibility or analyze survey. Check survey of accessibility is part of analyze survey. It just brings you down to that section. So I'm just going to click on Analyze Survey, and it gives you all this information. It says, we found 4 ways to improve your survey. You get this little uh, grade or whatever you want to call it. It says you can optimize questions for mobile. And what's nice is it will tell you what questions it kind of has an issue with, or ones that they're suggesting you can do better with. And so you can click on this and it'll go straight to the question. And of course, it has a little help thing to do it. Questions may be difficult to read, because it's a really long question and there's all, kinds of caveats and whatnot to it. And then here's the accessibility part. And again, it will tell you what questions um, are not accessible, might have a little bit of an issue with. And I'll tell you over here if it's minor, major, whatever, and something that's really just a suggestion, bot detection, valid display logic, uh, pipe text, scoring, if you've done that, translations, all kinds of nice things that it will check. And, if they think there's an issue, they'll say, we think there's an issue. You want to, do something about it. Um, some of these you'll really will want to fix, especially the accessibility things. Um, Others are you kind of have to use your judgment with. Like it says, minimal use of text entry boxes. Um, I think their cutoff is 3 or 4 text entry boxes. If you have more than that, then they'll say, "Oh, you have too many," and your response will get fatigued. Well, if you're asking for, say, their full address, you know, their name, street number, uh, zip code, city, state, country, well, you've got more than 3 text boxes there, but you need to ask that information. So it's kind of a judgment call. And in some instances, too, the accessibility will be. We talked about a little bit about this in the very first uh, session. Um, by all means, make your survey as accessible as possible. There are times when you need to do something and it's not accessible. And making it accessible means you're not doing the kind of research the way you need to do it. Uh, so again, it's with the accessibility, that should be the default. And if it's not accessible, you should have a good reason why. Um, so you go through all of these and you fix what you uh, really think needs to be fixed. And it's just, one last check of everything. Um, we talked a little bit last week about generating test responses. I'm not going to go through the whole thing again. We looked at it last week. Um, but again, this is a good way of just seeing what kind of data will be coming down and making sure that, the logic in your skip might be correct, but it might be skipping a question you don't want it to skip. Um, it's also useful. You can generate your data and then download it, and you can start writing. If you're using SPSS, you can start writing SPSS scripts to process and analyze your data while you're waiting for your real responses to come in. Just kind of a time saver in that instance. Um, you do need to make sure that when you generate the test data, that you go into the data and analysis. Um, there are no data in here, but that you would delete all of the test data before you actually distribute your survey. It's not the end of the world if you forget, because all of the test data, um, there's a variable in here that says what kind of response it is, whether it's a test response or a real response that came in from the internet or whatever. And so you can filter out uh, anything that's not a real response at a later time. What you also want to do before you distribute is if you did any kind of randomization, like we talked about last week, um, you want to make sure that you go into your survey flow and reset all of the counts for any randomization you've done. That will mess you up because, as I mentioned last week, Qualtrics will start from whatever is in there now. And once you distribute your survey and people start answering it, you can't change it. You don't want to change it because that will really mess things up. So really important to reset the randomization counts. Any questions so far? Okay. Uh, the next thing you want to do is go into survey options and just make sure that all these options that you need are set to what you want. The display name, this is just what comes up here in the tab. The description, responses, whether you want a back button, all of these kinds of things. Um, survey availability, start time, end time, various security things, post survey if you want to send thank you message emails, email triggers. These are, I guess, deprecated is the computer term. Uh, and they are, rather than using triggers, you should go up to workflows to send an email once somebody finishes your survey. Um, this part down here, manage contact list workflows, this won't work for you by default anyway. You have to contact uh, the brand administrator, which is not me, to get this turned on. And I don't know the criteria for turning it on and off, but you can still do contact list workflows in the workflows. So I'm not sure why this is here as opposed to the other thing. Um, yeah, with responses, I knew there was something in here. Um, and this is what I did today and have done before. So learn from my mistakes, because obviously I'm not going to, is edit the survey availability. And if you just leave it open, that's fine. People will be able to answer it anytime. Um, but if you do want to have a set time period in which they can answer it, then you need to uh, edit this. And that's what I forgot to do today, is to set it so that you could get in there today. That's on the sign in one. Um, any questions? Okay, so you've checked everything, you've done all your tests, you looked at all your accessibility, etc., all the survey options, you're all set and ready to send it out to your respondents. And so you go up to distributions, and I did a preview. As you can see, it will say whether it was collected by the preview button up here. It's a test response that was generated with the tool thing, or if it's an actual response. Um, you can see over here anonymous link, emails, personal links. The two you will use the most are either anonymous link or emails. And we're going to talk about those in a couple of minutes. Personal links, uh, it will create a specific link for each respondent. You have to use a contact list with this, and we're going to talk about those in a minute. And that's to use with a different mailing system. If you want to use a different mailing system from what the internal one for Qualtrics is. You can send it out by text message. You can give people access codes to it. It will generate links for all the different kinds of social media. If you want to let people to do it offline, but you got to, again, contact the brand admin to see if you can get access to that. It'll generate a QR code, all kinds of downloads, and Qualtrics will even generate panels, which is really just a respondent list. They'll help find respondents for you. You have to pay for that. So you want to be careful with it. They're not going to charge you before you do anything. So as I say, the two most common ways you'll do it is with an anonymous link and emails. So let's look at the anonymous link. And there it is. You can copy the link, and then you can get to your survey. So you can post that link on a web page. You can even send it out in an email or a text message or any number of other ways that you can use this kind of a link. Now, as it says, it's anonymous. So you will get no identifying information from your respondents except for IP address, which is considered personally identifiable information, and their latitude and longitude, which, uh, if any of us sitting here in the city of Syracuse respond to it, it will say Syracuse. It's not going to give your address or anything like that. Um, So with an anonymous link, if you need people's, contact information, you have to specifically ask for it. Uh, and the anonymous link is typically used um, when you do post the link on a web page, or you're sending it out to, say, a couple of email lists, listservs, et cetera, or posting it on a web form someplace. And so that's the anonymous link. Very, very easy to use. The other method is by sending out emails. And these require I'm going to say compose. You have to have a contact list. So for the moment, let's go and look at contact lists. To get to them, you come up here, and in this list, they're called directories. You'll see in Qualtrics the word directories, the word contact lists, and the word panel. And they're all basically the same thing. It's just they've kind of changed the way they do it over the years and have given them different names. But it's all basically the same thing. So you click on directories, and you can see I have a whole bunch because I've been doing this. And a directory or a contact list is separate from the survey. So any of these contact lists can be used with any survey. And any survey, when we go into the mail, you'll see you can use any contact list. To create one, just come over to create a list, give it a name, and you can either do it by uploading a CSV file. You can drag it, and it will all right, can you see this Excel sheet?
Yes.
Excellent. And this is the format that it needs to be in. And you need at least the email. External data reference is kind of a holdover from the very early days of Qualtrics. This can be blank, and you don't need these. You have to have this, the column, identified in here, but you don't need to have any information in here. You can add other columns as well. You don't have to have department, city, or country. This is just an example. But here it could be department, it could be, political science, uh, engineering, physics, etc. And so you create your contact list in here, and then you just uh, drag and drop it into here, and it will create um, your directory. The other way is to just type it straight in. And again, it says phone number and language. You don't have to have those columns in there, and you can add other columns. And you can change the number, change here. Okay. So you can just type in uh, right from there. And you can kind of mix and match so you can add. So if you already have a contact list and you want to add, you can upload a file and it will append it, or you can do the manual input again. Um, as you can see here, I have this one little contact list with just myself in it. My Syracuse ID or email and a personal one. And I suggest if you're going to do anything with contact lists, you create one like this just to do your testing. Um, it'll make it a lot easier. Um, and, even if you don't use Gmail or Yahoo or whatever, just create one just so that you can see what happens when the email gets sent outside of the university. If you click, you can see some information about the person. You can add information. There's a timeline of survey flow things and emails, what lists this person is in. Any person can be in any number of directories, and this will show you all the directories they're in. Then stats, last time anything was done with them. There's list options. You can export the contacts back to a CSV file. You can merge duplicates. That happens sometimes. Um, you can create a sample. So if you have a list of, say, 2,000 people, you can create a sample of 50. You can rename it and you can delete it. I don't recommend deleting lists. You may not need it much anymore, but it's not, uh, really hurting by keeping it there. And you never know, 6 months from now, you want the information that's in here or related to it. Any questions about contact lists? Yeah, they're pretty easy. So now we want to go back to so we need to get to here. Now we'll do compose email. And you have to select the contacts. So lists, etc. And so you can send it to the entire contact list, a sample from that list if you've created any, or specific individuals in it. 9 times out of 10, you'll want the entire list. You can change the from address if you need to or want to. The from name and the reply to email. The from name and the reply to email can be set. Remember in the very first class, we came up here to the options, and you can set, whatever you want as a default in here. You can send it in an hour or however you want, custom date and time. Of course, if you're testing your survey, you want to send it now. You don't want to have to wait an hour. You can type whatever subject you want, and you can have in your library if you've set it up to do so. Choose a subject line. It won't let you send it without a subject in here. You can also have pre-made messages to go in that you would pull from your library. And then you can just start typing down here. As you see, it already has some information here. You don't want to mess with this. This is the link, to follow the survey, to get actually to the survey, URL to copy and paste. You've all seen that kind of thing. And then the opt-out link. So if people don't want to get any more emails from you, they click on that, and it's like the unsubscribe link. And there's the standard. You can create a link, some formatting things. We see our nice piped text information again. Graphics, standard types of things for editors, and a few more things. So you can create this message and then save it, and it'll save it into your library. One thing I want to show you that's very important is come down here to show advanced options. I don't know why they, kind of hide it like that. But by default, when you use a contact list and email, everybody gets their very own link. And that's how Qualtrics tracks who has answered your survey and who hasn't. You can send a link so that they can complete it multiple times if you've set that up in the survey options. And you can also use a contact list to send an anonymous link. And sometimes you might want to do that if you're asking for very sensitive information. You want to be able to tell people, we don't know who you are. By default, if you use an individual link like this, any information that's in your contact list will be appended to their responses in the data. So you'll have their name and email by default, and whatever other uh, columns you may have um, added to your contact list. What you really want to look at too is the expiration. So by default, it's 60 days. You can do it 1 day, 3 days, etc. Custom again. This, um, you really want to make sure that the link and whatever you might have set in the survey options for the survey availability um, don't conflict with one another. So even if, um, in the survey options, you say leave it open, forever. With this link expiration, the link will expire in 60 days. And once that link expires, people won't be able to use it again. So if you're doing, say, a pre and post survey at the beginning of the semester and at the end, you want to make sure that this link, you do the custom so that, it's at the end of the semester. Because the semester is more than 60 days. And if you leave it like that and they come back at the end of the semester, nobody's going to be able to do the second part. So once you have all this, you can then, I usually just do the send now, the send preview email. It just kind of lets you look at the email. You can't really click on anything. It doesn't, you can't really test the email and the links and whatnot that are in here. So I always do the send now and just get a regular email. And of course, the two contacts are both myself. So it's not going to actually go out to my respondents until I say, yes, everything is working correctly. So I'll hit send now. It might take, or validation errors, correct the errors and try again. That's interesting. Oh, that's because the link expired. See, sometimes it tells you there's an error, but it won't tell you what the error is. And here in your, in the distribution summary, says that it was sent, can show the details. It says 2 messages sent, none failed, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just kind of waiting for that email. There we go. And so here's the email. I didn't put anything up in here, but you see it comes from Research Data Services to Paul Byrne. You click the link, you get to your survey. So this distribution thing can be very handy, especially when you're testing different things. One thing you need to do, though, is when you are testing, is each time you send the email to yourself, you have to come in and delete the distribution. Because if you send, Qualtrics will prevent you from sending repeated emails to the same list, same directory, repeated times. It'll say, "Oh, you already sent this out. Chill." And so you won't get that next email to make sure that because you made a typo or something in the body of it. So you have to delete each distribution. So that's pretty much it on distributing your survey. Are there any questions? Now, I went through that kind of quickly, but it's fairly straightforward. Any questions about anything else in Qualtrics? We've got time. Okay, then. Thank you, everyone. That'll do it for today, and I'll see everyone here same time next week, next Thursday, when we'll be doing actually, I forget what I called it, but we'll be looking at the actual data that you've collected. And that will be our last class. So have a good week, everyone. Take care.